What knowledge might save your life one day? If a rhino is running towards you, wait until the last second then sidestep out of the way. Rhinos cannot make sudden turns and will give you a couple seconds head start to run in the other direction. Repeat as necessary. If you ever fall/get pushed down from the platform onto the rails at a subway station, try to roll under the platform. Many stations have space there, like little overhang, for exactly that reason. Well, my country sure want people to die that way. They've got space under there, but have blocked it up with a big metal fence. If you are ever bitten by a bat, raccoon, fox, or skunk, go directly to the hospital. There is no cure for rabies once it is fully onset. EMT here. If you're ever choking on food in a public venue, do not go to the restroom to avoid causing a scene. Almost every death I've seen from people choking are found unconscious in a bathroom stall because they were too polite to seek help. I feel like if there's any situation in which it's okay to not be polite, it's when you're choking to death. If you're a pedestrian and crossing a street, if you can see the sun's reflection on the windshield of a car, there's a good chance the driver cannot see you. If your shadow points toward the car, same. If you ever are kayaking and become pinned upside down, swim down deeper into the water to escape the kayak. You may not be able to flip it over. If you fall into cold open water, resist the urge to swim and try to float until the onset of panic subsides. Once you have your breathing under control, you can then start to swim to safety. By doing this, you will not hyperventilate and avoid potentially drowning. To float, slowly lift your legs up, keep your arms out at surface and lean your head back. Yes, you will get water in your ears, just let it be. When you go into a building, look for an exit that is not the one you used to come in. In an emergency, most people will head out their original exit, but you will head out of the exit less traveled, and it may make all the difference. If you're ever charged by a moose, get behind a tree. They have about a 10-inch blind spot, and they'll lose you. That's what Ski Patrol would always say when there were an increase in moose sightings on the mountain. They'd tell you to stay out of the trees when skiing, unless a moose is running at you. Then find trees, because unless you've got a steep hill, or are already up to speed, the moose is probably faster than you think. If you have to get through a locked door, don't charge into it with your shoulder. Instead, kick it straight on next to the door knob/handle. This has a much better chance of breaking the lock. Edit, it's better to mule kick the door next to the lock instead of facing forward while you kick. It's safer for you, and you can apply more/better force that way. If you've been buried alive in a standard coffin, stay calm. If you are alive, you haven't been buried that long. Also, the dirt above you hasn't set yet. Most coffins are not built to last once buried, and as a result have weak siding. So here is what you do. Pull your shirt over your head. You don't want to be swallowing dirt. Position yourself so you are as sideways in the coffin as possible with hands and feet pushing on the long sides. Push. You should be able to blow out one of the walls. Start crawling up. Do not panic. You may not find a grip immediately. Keep going until you make it out. If you feel chronically unwell all the time and you get told there is nothing wrong with you by your doctor, that you are suffering purely mental health problems or hypochondria, don't give up pushing for answers, unless you know subconsciously this is the case. Hypochondria is not as common as some physicians seem to think, and even if the problem was pathological or psychosomatic in nature, it is still a problem that needs dealing with. People know their own bodies and know when something is wrong. There is a vast expanse of medical conditions that are possible and very difficult to diagnose. Doctors may only deal with some rare conditions once in a career or not at all, and won't automatically go there when considering your symptoms. I was told I was a hypochondriac for 10 years and everything was blamed on lifestyle and mental health. I went from the youngest international shipping director in my sector to practically bedbound and in terrible health and distress over 2 months at 21, and was told nothing was wrong for the next 10 years. Turned out I had a rare disease called Cushing's, which was damaging my heart, atrophying my brain, causing central hormonal obesity, constant infections and damage to my bones, and destroying my quality of life. I had almost zero testosterone in my body and a dangerous amount of cortisol stress hormone. It was left to get worse for a decade. Before the self-righteous lecture comment, this is not an indictment of the medical profession. These things are difficult, and not all doctors are the same. They do a great job most of the time, but doctors are human like everyone else and this makes them fallible. But if I gave up and didn't keep pushing, I wouldn't be here today. Always leave your itinerary with someone. If you meet strangers, potential bad people, on the road, always let them know that you are in touch with friends and family and that they know exactly where you are. You become less attractive as a victim. Edit. Always let strangers know that you have a destination and are expected at a particular time too. This is really useful when traveling in areas where taxis/tuk-tuks will try to bring you somewhere better. Just tell them you're meeting a friend and they shut up. I've also heard that not only say a friend, but make it more specific, like I'm meeting my sister or my mom is waiting for me at the restaurant. Friend can sound more generic, but family members also imply that they will call someone if you don't show up, as they are typically closer to you than a friend can be. Not saying this is true in all situations, but making up specifics will help more than generic statements. If you call 911, always say where the problem is first, followed by the problem. If you happen to get cut off before you can say what the problem is, at least the dispatcher has a location to send an officer to check it out and advise if more police or fire is needed. Example, operator. 911, where is your emergency? You, help, I'm being stabbed, disconnect, versus operator. 911, where is your emergency? You. 742 Evergreen Terrace, help, I am, disconnect, location, location, location. If your car is going underwater, an electronic roll-down button will work regardless of the water pressure outside the car, but a manual handle is much more difficult. You also won't be able to open the door. It's better to have something in the glove box, like an ice scraper, to break the glass with. Mythbusters did a whole thing on it. That episode saved a woman's life. She wrote to them to tell them, and Adam Savage cried knowing he'd helped to save a life. Mythbusters saved my life, or at least my house. I was an early teen and was cooking bacon. The pan caught fire, but I had just watched the episode where they put water on a grease fire, and it makes it way worse. If I hadn't have watched that episode, I would have probably thrown water on it, and it would have been no bueno. If you are in danger or in need of help in a public place, it's almost always a bad idea to just yell help. It's more important to be specific. Pointing at someone and telling them to call 911 will be more effective. The bystander effect can be a real problem sometimes. I tell my kids to break windows if someone is attacking them or the like. Yelling help may not get cops, breaking windows will. I'll gladly pay for windows to keep my kids safe. I can't replace my kids. On a related note for adults, if someone tries to get into a vehicle you're driving, like at a stoplight or a parking lot, punch the gas. Do not drive to wherever this person is telling you to go. Hit whatever is in front or behind you, unless it's a person. Don't hit a person, a car, a wall, what have you. Accidents draw people and thereby more witnesses. 1 out of 20 people will get bowel cancer in their lifetime. You need some sort of screening starting at age 45 to 50 depending on your family history. Any blood in the stool needs to be checked out. Early cancers can be completely cured with keyhole surgery. You don't have to die of bowel cancer. In Australia, when you turn 50, the government starts sending you free testing kits every 2 years. How to tie a bowline with one hand. If somebody throws you a rope, you have to tie it around you while holding onto it with one hand. A normal knot will come undone or tighten up around you, potentially smothering you, but a bowline won't. Learned this in the Boy Scouts probably 25 years ago. Haven't thought about it in probably 20 years. Just tried it and can still do it. and it's a much faster method than the traditional bowline tying method. If you're alone and start choking with nobody around to give you the Heimlich, you can give yourself the Heimlich by using the back of a chair or similar objects like the sidearm of a couch or whatever. Forcefully throw your stomach over the back of the chair a few times. Try to mimic the motion of the Heimlich. Push in above the belly button, then up, kind of like a J motion. When touching something electrical, use the back of your hand. Using your palm on, say, a live wire will cause your hand to grab it, and you be unable to let go. As an electrician, just don't grab electrical things at all. Let me do it, instead. If the tide suddenly goes out unexpectedly, run like you stole it, for higher ground. I read about a 10-year-old English girl who had just learned this before going on vacation with her family to Thailand. Then the big tsunami that killed a few 100,000 came. She saw the water retreat and the other tourists walk out on the exposed seafloor. She freaked out and convinced everybody to run for higher ground. A lot of people were saved by a little girl who had paid attention in school. They later brought a lot of flowers to the teacher. Imagine how terrifying that must be. Knowing that a huge unstoppable wave is traveling hundreds of kilometers per hour to your location. And most people don't listen to you, just thinking you're a stupid kid who doesn't know any better. Wear a helmet, wear a seatbelt. It may not be cool, but you're more fragile than you lead yourself to believe. I've lost 3 friends because of these. Don't be a statistic, please. There's someone that would miss you and think I just wish they had put a helmet/seatbelt on. That water you're about to dive into might not be as deep as you think. Always just step in and swim down to check for depth. Then jump. Always do this. My dad told me a story about a group of guys he knew from school. After graduation they all went up to someone's lake house, and one guy decided to dive off the dock. As soon as they got there the water was shallow that year, and when he dove in he broke his neck and died on impact. Maybe not your life, but everyone should have basic first aid/CPR training if possible. My dad collapsed on Saturday morning when he got up to go to the toilet, and neither me or my mum know basic first aid or CPR. The ambulance took 8 minutes to arrive, and we only live 4 streets away from the depot. Luckily he came to, but there was a point where he stopped breathing. If he continued to not breathe 8 minutes would be too late. Please learn and hope you don't need it, instead of needing it and not knowing. There is no such thing as a fair fight. This is something my dad drilled into my head for years. You never know what the other person's mentality is going to be. If you get in a fight, they may be hell-bent on killing you. They may have a hidden weapon you don't know about. Do anything and everything you can to survive. Kick out knees, gouge eyes, knee the groin, whatever it takes to know you'll survive. If someone gets stabbed, do not take the knife out if possible. If it stays in, it acts as a plug to the hole and will reduce blood loss. Apply pressure around the wound as best as you can and call an ambulance. If a person asks you for something in the street, a light, the time, whatever, always keep the person in your eye line. So if they ask for the time, don't just look down at your watch. Raise your arm slightly so your watch is in sight. I was told this years ago at a self-defense thing at a corporate retreat type of event, and I wondered if it was ever going to be useful or just something to pad out the teacher's session. Then, a decade later, I was on the street late at night on my way home, and someone approached me and asked for the time. I did this, told him the time, and he just kinda stood there. Then he started asking some weird, clearly improvised, question about how he was looking for his friend's house, and he was sure it was on that street, and he had a yellow car similar to the one behind me. I didn't look back but just said yeah, yellow, and he pointed directly behind me. I said yeah, the yellow car, I saw it as I walked by, so. He paused for a second, looking like that meme of the woman with the equations around her head, then just yelled oh, frick you, and stormed off. It was only afterwards I realized that I think he wanted me to look away so he could slug me, but he wasn't prepared to attack someone that was looking right at him. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, you can check another video.